I knew it. I knew it. No, not that way.
Stop that. We'll get to the zombies when we get to them. Hey gang, Uncle Todd and Sonny here. She's very excited because we've got another zombie film. This is Ray Dennis Steckler's The Incredibly Strange Creatures That Stopped Living and Became Mixed Up Zombies. Yeah, he liked putting long titles on his films. This was probably one of his longest. Steckler, he had an interesting film style. Now, he was professionally a camera operator and a cinematographer. So, his personal films that he made, when he worked for other people, were well shot and in focus. And there would even be scenes that were fairly suspenseful. On the other hand, there were two things he didn't like to do. He didn't like to film with sound. He could dub all that later. His camera had no mic. And two, he didn't like using a script because you never know what you might find you can add into your film. And you can tell this by the kind of meandering way some of his films went, like The Thrill Killers, which bounced between two different set of killers who finally meet up towards the end. And or probably the most crazy was Rat Fink a Boo Boo, which was supposed to be Rat Fink and Boo Boo. He started it as a suspenseful film in which this famous actress, played by his wife, Carol Brandt, was receiving obscene phone calls and being followed by the members of a gang called the Chain Gang, because they all carried chains. Mixed in with that is songs performed by her boyfriend, star Lonnie Lord, played by actual musician Ron Haddock, who was fairly popular locally in Los Angeles, but never really got national recognition. And about 40 minutes into a 70-minute film, the actress gets kidnapped. And after receiving a ransom call, Lonnie Lord and the actress's gardener rush into a closet and come out in superhero costumes as Rat Fink and Boo Boo. And then the last 30 minutes is a long chase with fight scenes where they get beat up quite a bit. And at the end there's a parade in which the two men in costume kind of snuck in so Steckler could get some footage of it. Acting like it was in their honor. But this film was a little different. He actually worked with someone who kind of scripted some things, but Still, Steckler liked to input things as he found them, because it didn't start out as the first horror musical. It was just going to be a horror film. This was his first self-made one, feature-length at least. His first feature-length directorial was Wild Guitar for Arch Hall Jr., and then he went on his own to make his films. This one at least was released through Arch Hall Sr.'s company. And then when he found all these costumes in the place where they were filming, he decided to add music numbers. And now, The Horror of Party Beach has also staked the claim as the first horror musical, but this film came out roughly about a month earlier, so I think it gets the nod. We start out at the tent of Estrella, the fortune teller, who kind of likes this one guy who's a bit of a drunk. But he doesn't want her. He wants her sister, Carmelita. Rebuffed, she doesn't take it too well.
You pig! I made you love it!
That rather interesting man next to her was Ortega, her assistant. From there we move into the credits, and after that we are introduced to our hero, Jerry, and his friend, Harold.
Well, if you get a job or something, she might change her mind, you know?
A job? Be a little discreet about that, will you, Harold? Somebody's liable to hear you.
Yes, he's a lazy ne'er-do-well, played by Cash Flagg, a.k.a. Ray Dennis Steckler. Story goes, because he had so much trouble getting checks from Arch Hall Sr. for directing Wild Guitar, he then, for all his work after that, would always demand cash up front, and came up with the name Cash Flagg that would let people know, or something like that. But they're off to see Jerry's girlfriend, Angie. The whole get a job thing, that was having to do with Angie's mother, who doesn't like him. And so they go over to pick up Angie.
I meet a girl that is just his type. And you'll be hurt.
I don't think so.
He doesn't even come to the door for you.
He wouldn't be Jerry if he did.
Mother's going to be a little prophetic there. But I love that whole, he wouldn't be Jerry if he did. He's a rebel. Girls always like the bad boys. Anyways, they head out to the beach and the amusement park on the pier, where we get a lot of footage of them on rides and running around. Meanwhile, at a little club on the pier, we are introduced to a dancing team at a local nightclub, and one of the dancers is having some trouble. Yep, she's drinking. The owner, he's not thrilled with this. Oh, that's Carol Brandt, director's wife. But as I said, the owner's not too happy with this. Tells her he's cutting their second show, but she better be sobered up by the third and get over what it is that's bothering her. So, dealing with a lot of premonitions that she's not going to live long, hence the drinking. She heads down to the boardwalk to Madame Estrella to see if a reading can change her mind or help her.
God will tell us if we are in danger. What did you see? I'll look for myself. It's the death card, isn't it?
Panicked, the dancer turns the wrong way and accidentally discovers Estrella's basement of victims. But she manages to get away. Well, fortunately, she dropped her purse, and now Estrella knows who she is. Name's Marge. And she's working over at the nightclub. She's got to think of something fast. As luck would have it, Jerry and the gang decide they would like to get some readings done.
I can no longer see you. Now, someone moves. Yes. You are lying on the ground by water.
Keep in mind that prediction there of Angie losing someone close to her and being on the lying down on the beach by the water. Very important for later. Anyway, they leave Estrella where they catch the Barker for the girly show, and Jerry's a bit intrigued by Carmelita. Angie notices this and is not happy. Jerry insists on going in to see the show, which really upsets Angie. Looks like her mother may have been right. She storms off, and Jerry gives his keys to Harold so he can drive Angie home. And then he goes into the weirdest girly show I think I've ever encountered. Actually, I've never been to a girly show, but I'd hate to think it was like this. See what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, after those two acts, we finally get to see Carmelita.
I'll bring you to the rainbow, and it's our guarantee.
Yeah, it's a striptease in a PG version. You don't really see anything. Though I do wonder about the crowd that he picked to be the audience for this performance. Take two. So, we have a dance routine, a pop singer, and a striptease, which is just perfect for the middle-aged housewife, the afternoon off, I guess. Anyway, Ortega slips Jerry a note that Carmelita wants to see him in her dressing room. Well, Jerry immediately heads back there, but he doesn't have the experience he thought he was going to have.
Follow me.
Estrella hypnotizes him. And then, later, at Marge's next performance. Guess her partner shouldn't have tried to help. Anyway, that night, Jerry has a nightmare about interpretive dance. Yeah. Staple of the bad movie, the weird dancing dream sequence. Although sometimes, like in Glen or Glinda, it actually is relevant to the plot. This, it's a lot of interesting imagery. Oh, that's not Steckler doing his own dancing. He had an actual dancer with the face paint on to play him there. The next morning he wakes up. No memory of what happened last night, but goes over to Angela's place to apologize to her, and she unfortunately makes a bad move with an umbrella.
But I sure would like to know what happened after I left.
Shocked and horrified, Jerry runs off, and wandering around Los Angeles, unable to comprehend why he did that, he comes upon a news broadcast.
Police are still searching for the bizarre murderer of Marge Nielsen, exotic dancer at the Hungry Mouth nightclub. Miss Nielsen was stabbed to death last night during the performance of her act. Her partner, Bill Ward, was fatally wounded while trying to apprehend the murderer.
Realizing this must have something to do with it, he has vague memory flashes of something. So he hops in his car and heads back to the pier. While he's doing that, one of the dancers in the show sees the newspaper story of the murder and remembers something she had seen that night and goes to talk to Estrella about it.
Just out of curiosity, what did you predict the future held for her? Nothing. Because she wasn't here last night.
If I didn't know you better, I'd almost say you had something to hide. Well, I've got to get home. I've got a date.
Why do people always do this? Now she's going to have to get rid of her. Luckily, Jerry shows up.
Look, last night I killed a girl, and I think you know why. So tell me, what happened last night behind those curtains?
Well, if you really must know what happened behind those curtains, why don't you go behind them?
Think I will.
He's not very bright, is he? Now he's rehypnotized. Meanwhile, back at Angie's, Harold shows up and convinces them not to call the police. They need to find Jerry and get him help. So, he, Angie, and Angie's brother, who saved her, I didn't write his name down. Oh well. And her brother go to find him. She thinks he's probably at the pier. But he's not. He's over at that dancer's place.
Stella. Stella?
See what I mean about the camera work? That was some good camera work for a suspenseful scene. And it works with the shadow, too. A lot of his films have that. They'll have just like a couple of scenes that really, really work. In The Thrill Killers, there was one where one of the killers is committing one of his crimes, and there's a light that got hit, and it's swinging back and forth so that you get this light, dark image to the whole thing. Anyway, back to this one. With those murders now, Jerry heads back to Estrella, where she gives him his reward.
Why did you remember so much? Now you have left me very little choice.
Well, with his features all destroyed by acid, Chaz Ortega take him over to the dungeon with her other victims when the zombies escape. She said those aren't zombies and left in disgust. I can't argue with her. I'm not even sure those are acid burns. Well, the misshapenness of it all. Acid would take away, not add. Anyway, after disposing of the three who have kept them prisoner, they move on to attack the dancers. I love how the people in the audience at first are just, oh, that's an interesting part of the show. Well, all this pandemonium, of course, brings the police, and they don't stop to question anyone. Well, at this point, Angie, Harold, and Angie's brother show up just in time to see what's happened to Jerry. That's not too bad. It's a little on one side, but odd considering she hit him straight on. Never mind. That at least looks like an acid burn as opposed to the guy in front of it with it. What was that? And those cops, man, bam! He just comes out and they shoot him. Luckily, Jerry manages to get away, and we get an extremely long chase along the seashore until he goes for his King Kong moment and climbs the top of a hill. they just shoot anything? He was just standing there. Wasn't threatening anybody. Saying go back. Anyway, his body eventually washes up on shore, and remember Estrella's prediction. Oh, now you're sorry. You know what that guy was doing? Maybe you shouldn't have shot him. Of the 3 films that we've looked at this month are turkeys. This one is probably the best of them. It's the most coherent overall. There's some actually good camera work in it, and the story moves at a good clip. The acting is marginal, but then most of the people in it were not professional actors, except I think Steckler and Brandt, who had acted in other stuff. But it's more coherent, probably because he worked with another person on the story, so that it all clicked and had a good forward progression. There was another act at the nightclub, and they would cut to him periodically. He was a comedian. Here's a sample of his brilliant humor.
I don't have to do this for a living, you know. See, my father and mother have an iron and steel company. You've heard it before? No, go ahead. My mother irons and my father steels.
Wow. You know it's bad when a guy in the audience knows your joke already. And his delivery is like that for all his jokes. There's one where my wife said she'd leave me if I didn't stop drinking. I'm sure gonna miss her. Yeah. Anyway, some of the other people in this film, like Brett O'Hare, is it O'Hare? O'Hara, who played Estrella. Her main career was as Susan Hayward's stand-in, although she did appear in another Steckler film, Wildcats on Wheels. And who's the other one? Atlas King, who played Harold, and Irina Ennio both appeared in Thrill Killers. And there's a lot of interesting things that happen in this film. Steckler has a lot of footage of him and 2 of the actors on amusement park rides throughout, and well shot. And I'm wondering if he had to sneak the camera onto those rides or not. And this film actually had several different titles. When Steckler would finish the first run, during the runs, he and some friends would put on masks, and when the zombies had their big attack towards the end, he and his friends would run out with the masks on into the audience and scare them. When it finished its run, he would then re-release it with a new title, such as The Incredibly Mixed Up Zombies, Diabolical Dr. Voodoo, and my favorite, The Teenage Psycho Meets Bloody Mary. Steckler once said that sometimes audience members would get really upset when they go in to see the film and find out they had already seen it under another title. He almost didn't even have this title. Originally it was going to be called The Incredibly Strange Creatures, or Why I Stopped Living, and became a mixed up zombie, which was found out by Columbia Pictures who was releasing Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. And they were going to shut the film down, but Steckler actually worked things out with them and Stanley Kubrick. He actually talked to Stanley Kubrick, and he suggested the title of Mixed Up Zombies, who stopped living and became mixed up zombies, and Kubrick okayed that. This probably had Steckler's biggest budget. It was $38,000. He had backers on this one. Most of his later films he financed himself usually, which is why they have this kind of pieced together feel about him, and this one doesn't. Now, if you're wondering why they were at night at the end of the film, and then when they ran on the beach, they were in daylight. Steckler had tried to do day for night shooting, which, you have a filter, but it looked so horrible, he just said, screw it. It's daytime now. Probably one of the biggest names was the writer Robert Silliphant. He helped with the script and actually played one of the zombies. And the director of photography was Joseph Maselli, one of the greatest cinematographers of all time. This was his first film, and he went on to do like Chinatown and stuff. Wow. We all have small beginnings. But yeah, I rather enjoy this film. It's not something I'd watch every day, but it's not bad. It's not great, but it's enjoyable. Yeah. And Steckler fans, this is his masterpiece. It's not bad. The filming of all the places like the Midway for the amusement park and all that was actually done at a Masonic temple that Rock Hudson owned. And this was a non-union film, so they were filming on the top floor. And whenever they would get wind that the union reps were coming, and they would shut them down for being a non-union film, they'd shut the elevator off. And the reps, they weren't going to walk up 4 or 5 flights of stairs for such a small film. That's chutzpah. Some of Steckler's later work was interesting because in the 70s he made 3 films: Blood Shack, also known as The Trooper, The Hollywood Strangler versus the Skid Row Slasher. Those both had Carol Brandt in them. And the sequel of The Hollywood Strangler, The Las Vegas Killers. Most interesting, these films have no dialogue at all. It's all voiceover, or you'll hear radio broadcasts or things. But Joe Bob Briggs once commented that you got to hand it to a guy. He makes a silent film in the 70s and gets away with it. That's why we appreciate Steckler. He did things nobody would ever think of doing. Well, that's about all I've got to say for this one. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. And as always, stay after for my favorite scene.
take him and make him like my other little pets.